No, I don't actually know.
Particularly,
They must be referring to different amino acids, and I think these make up different proteins or parts of proteins, but they're not your normal adenine, guanine. So they might be, no, let's just see, that might be fine, and guanine, actually might be, I don't know what the I's would be. I don't know enough genetics to tell, but yeah.
particularly closely related to the tomato.
Yeah, well,
That's how we go red.
You said the
You can crush it with bacteria.
using the limbs. What did you say? The genetic makeup. What was the word you used?
yeah, well, the initial creature, Pachycetus, if you look at it, is a fully formed creature. It's almost a bear-like creature. That's why that creation is referred to bears turning into whales. But it's like a bear with fully formed legs. Now, phenotypically, there's no evidence of any fins on its body. So, my contention with that is, where would the information have been stored in the DNA for it to develop fins over millions of years? I can understand that it could have lost genes along the way.
Genes. You can lose genes, but you can't gain
New information. You can gain new traits by shuffling the same genes and by losing the same genes, and they can be sometimes slightly beneficial, like the sickle cell, red blood cells of people suffering from hemophilia. In their case, it's an advantage because they're not malaria prone. They're not prone to attack from the Plasmodium, I think it is. But yet they have other deficiencies in terms of oxygen transport, etc., because of that deficiency.
You talk about losing legs and gaining fins. Is there absolutely no possibility of that leg, through a shuffling, changing into a fin? In other words, that it's not lost, but it just changes its shape and...
To me, it's just not conceivable. I think it could become a blob, something that looked like a fin, but I cannot see how it could be functioning like a fin. And also the way it has been reformed, like the fin going horizontal.
It's mechanically very different, totally different.
Yeah, it's, to me, just by applying logic, I'm not a geneticist, but logic...
I mean, all those veins, the lungs from the veins from the fins and all that.
And the fins and the legs are totally different places.
It's just not logical to conceive.
I'm just talking around it, but yeah. I think man can't answer anything else. Like he doesn't have the answers, and that's his biggest problem. But one question I do have is, and I don't think it's quite so stupid. I mean, okay, how does a bear get a fin? I don't know that. That's not for me to know. But how does a baby come out with 3 arms, or a Siamese twins? That's kind of like, that needs an answer for me. Because what happens if those, they have surgeons now that take the arm off and they have normal and blah blah blah. But what happens if that person grew up and then bred with another person, and all of a sudden you start getting people with 3 arms, and it's suddenly...
No, quite often it's not hereditary, it's only an error that occurred for that particular
So it's like
job.
the DNA got a little bit scrambled and kind of 3 arms.
In the year 12 and year 13 textbooks, if you look at excellence in biology, they have some examples, for instance, of Klinefelter, different syndromes, people with chromosome deficiencies or quite rare abnormalities. Now, some of them can successfully reproduce, like dwarfism, for instance. Some of these people can reproduce and have normal children.
So it's there, so it's not actually getting created from nothing, it is there anyway. time it's just not pronounced.
Yeah, it's because of, I mean, now with the radiation leak in Tokyo, we could probably watch for deformity in successive generations, not too far from now.
It's like a
Just because
typo
the genes, I mean, the
in
genes.
the genes. Because my daughter Grace has got Down syndrome, trisomy 21, which means she's got triplicate of on her 21st chromosome. She's got 3 sets of chromosomes. So she has an extra, we have 46, she has 47. And that extra chromosome is like, has a overexpression of all the genes on there. And the genes were all mapped in 2000. So they know exactly what they are. But I think it's the male Down syndrome are infertile. So it can never be passed on. They can never become a population in themselves, having progressive
Oh, that makes sense.
And Victor, the thing with a mutation like that, is somebody growing a third arm. Every species has pretty much perfect symmetry, not so. We all have an arm sticking out at opposite ends, 2 arms sticking out, 2 legs sticking out in the same way. You put a third one in there and the symmetry's gone. And there are no creatures like that on Earth. They all have symmetry.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
So,
The Babylonians used to draw elephants, I think it was, or lions, with a 5th leg to give it some mystical connotation, because there was nothing like that around, so they had to deify it that way.
So
To
the gene
one
pool is
extent for
deteriorating.
starfish,
Yeah.
of course.
To a great extent, our gene pool is deteriorating. I mean, look why Adam and Eve. I mean, there's some studies in terms of, and if you sort of project back, in terms of the age 600 down 100 years. I mean, it was a much larger man or woman as well. And if you look at when sin entered the world, we now have cancer, all these illnesses.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the environment as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at that third leg behind the baby, I mean, it's not a mutation. If you actually analyze it, put it under the CAT scan, there's definitely not a mutation at all. It's still a perfectly formed hand.
Yeah.
It's just.
And people have shown in aquaria that you can, by doubling the atmospheric pressure in the water, that you can increase body size of particular fish in there.
Cool.
So, I mean,
Catch a
It's
bigger
a stepper in a pressurized
quite
tank.
possible. And they have fossils of very large dragonflies. And you think of the Nephilim as well. At the moment you don't consider the Bible, you can wonder off track.
I don't know if this is a whole new topic or a big debate, but you said when at the end of the ark there were 8 people left on the ark. So how do you, so we as Christians, then how do we explain where the Chinese came from, the black people?
Well, there are different views, but basically Shem, Ham and Japheth are the 3 sons. I have a nice, actually I could, have I locked myself out?
That's the one that's holding.
Like, I'm sure I could actually bring it up quickly if I just have a second.
Didn't the colour just come from the environment?
What? Colour?
Sort of like tanning?
That's the other thing. I've asked this question, well, not me in person, but others have asked that question of Nigel, a well-known evolutionist at Auckland Museum, and they don't want to talk about population differences, especially when it comes to humans, because of the political issues. And I actually think it's it might show them where we actually come from, and that's all. No, we all have one.
It wasn't
Obviously
it the
before
Tower
that,
of Babel that real division came in there?
Yeah, there was languages. I think there was very much language based. But
But they were
Yeah, but
close together?
That's right. Because of that affiliation, due to the languages, they gathered together and that formed isolated pockets of genes, if you will, or particular populations, and they kept on interbreeding or intermarrying and produce offspring, and that's how they have developed the differences that we have today. I think the genome was very diverse in the beginning.
well, the evolution
Nowadays we
system.
look more like each other, especially within one
evolutionists have to answer the same question. We're not in a spot there, because they would also go back to one common human ancestor. So that would answer the same
If you look at
question.
the diversity in nature, I mean, why would God not actually replicate that also in humans? Like having it, we all look like the Chinese. I mean, goodness, like, you know, it wouldn't be very interesting. Or all look like us. You know, it would be boring. So I think that's the richness in our diversity. That was all in the DNA. It was already provided from day one.
Yeah.
That it was there.
I can find a quick in that.
It's a bit over my head.
No.
Leave thinking for God.
No, this is quite easy.
You know when he said about was it man being made in his image, but he brought him out from the dust of the earth, made him an earthly creature that is inhabited on this earth, like he brought the others out from the earth as well, the beasts and whatnot. So right there we share a commonness in structure and stuff for this habitat, isn't it really? For an earthly habitat.
And I think that is what God's idea was for making the apes. But still there was a loneliness that God detected in Adam, so hence Eve. There you can see, was it James who asked about that? Sure. There's my pointer. So the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the theory goes that Ham are the African people or the darker skinned people. Shem are the Europeans, and Japheth are the eastern people that actually migrated across in an easterly direction. Interesting, you can speculate that Meshech is where they get the word Moscow from today, and there are quite interesting studies about where the Russians come from. But that's possibly one of their ancestors or one of their main ancestors.
Where does that come from? Is there somewhere in Scripture that it says Japheth's people went there and Ham was there and
that's
Shem?
right. That's where they get this from. It's quite common, but unfortunate this Bible has got it published like that. There you can see the descendants of Japheth, Gomer, Ophir, descendants of Shem, and descendants of Ham.
Winter 4? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Noah and those three.
Yeah, that counts all. You can track it from Genesis 10. Very interesting, this kind of.
The wives of the sons would have probably been from other families, or of course, so they would have been bringing in new information, not just from Noah and his wife. Hey, so
although
added a little bit
They married
their sisters. They were married to their sisters. I think these three brothers. So that made the genetic inbreeding even.
Why do we say
pronounced.
that? Victor, why do we say they were married to their sisters?
I think it's mentioned in scripture somewhere. I'll have a read and.
No, that also says their wives.
Some variation of humans today could be to do with mutation A. Like I have heard, and you can confirm whether it's true or not, that blonde is a mutation, that it's a loss of the pigment producing. And so it's like all the mutations, it's a loss of information and a loss of something. Does that account for some of those sort of variations in skin colour?
Just on the same.
It could be possible. It's very, very.
On the same topic, I was wondering in terms of Ham, going south, all the guys, being subjected to the harsh African sun, the pigment changing, to the dark. I mean, obviously, as we know, Africans has got the very, very the skin, a lot more tolerant to the sun.
Yeah.
I wonder if that can also be classified as a type of microevolution where the skin has become more tolerant to being exposed.
Yeah, I think so.
It's quite an obvious sort of logical explanation, and
God allows that. I think
and God allows that.
These studies are quite, and that's in Darwin's time. These kind of studies were quite popular, but unfortunately, with a political motive to discriminate.
Yeah.
I think we've come to a period of tolerance, so that something like that can be reinvestigated. I think with our modern.
It's a matter of grace and mercy. I mean, being exposed to the African sun.
Quite valuable.
Yeah.